Welcome to the Press Play and Run podcast, the podcast for runners whose race calendar is dictated by FOMO and bad life choices. Today, we've got a very different kind of episode. We're not doing our usual delving into the background of one guest. And as promised, we have episode 1 guest, Alison Jardine, rejoining us on the podcast to talk us through just a couple of things that have happened since the last time we spoke. So if you remember, we had Alison on. I think the last time we spoke on here, Alison, was you were just getting ready to head out for Tokyo.
Yeah, I think that it was about 6 weeks to go, wasn't it?
So since then, quite a lot has transpired. A lot has happened for you. And I know that people are really keen to hear about the experience, about the 6-star finisher medal. So if you've not heard episode 1, if you listen to this one and want to hear a bit more about the start of Alison's journey, because it wasn't all 6-star medals and major marathons, go back to episode 1 and listen to that episode. So first of all, welcome back, Alison. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, yes. Glad to be back to talk running even more.
I know, I feel like I've been talking to you about running non-stop for weeks, but
yeah.
It's nice to be on here and there's lots I've not actually asked you about because I've been waiting on this moment, and we'll get to London as well when we are going to be joined by another guest today. We have Emily, who is Emily in the Outdoors on Instagram, or as I like to call her, Emily the Tube, because she's an absolute tube. So she's going to join us and bring a different marathon perspective, but we'll just ebb and flow today. I'm not too fixated on going through it in logical order, but let's try and begin where we left off the last time. So 6 weeks out from Tokyo, I obviously had done a wee bit of training with you in the lead up to that as well. We managed a couple of shorter runs together. What I want to know first of all is, tell me about Tokyo. Tell me first about the place and about your couple of days leading up to the race before we get near 6-star medals.
Well, I think before, I can't remember if I'd said to you, but I said to a few people before I went, I was kind of in that mindset of Tokyo wasn't really where it was meant to end. It was going to be Boston. So, because of lockdown, COVID restrictions, it ended up being Tokyo. So I was a bit like, don't know if this is where I really wanted it to end, but, we'll go, we'll see what it's like. It's not a place I would have ever chosen to go, but we'll make the most of it. It is now my most favourite place in the whole world. Like, I could talk about forever. Everything about it was amazing. The people, the place, the things to do, the parks, how clean it was, the food, like it really was amazing. It was like so much more than I could have ever wanted.
And what was the travel schedule like? How long were you out there before? I suppose that might be interesting for anybody thinking about an international marathon, particularly that far away.
So it was interesting actually. So we got there, so we left Glasgow on Tuesday at 1 p.m. and then we got into Tokyo in our hotel room at midnight on the Wednesday. So you obviously, like, it hits you on the way out because it's the times zone difference as well. However, I do think we were okay actually. I didn't struggle too much to get into their time zone. So obviously we had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then the race was on Sunday. So I do feel that was enough time to do things, but not do too much. Like, we'd kind of roughly planned things. So we knew we weren't going to be like too full on, so we could like not quite rest, but not take it too far. Whereas I know people that went maybe a week and a half before and did like the bullet train and day trips. And I'd have loved to have done that, but I do think it would have taken its toll by the Sunday.
Yeah, it's one of those type places, I suppose, like New York or London, where there's so much to do and see and cram in that there's maybe a temptation to get on your feet. And you did manage to squeeze in a lot, but some of that was afterwards.
Yeah, the things we did before, like we were trying to be quite clever. So we did the Mario Karts, which I think people have seen, and it was so much fun. And we'd obviously planned to do that before because it was sitting down. But what we didn't realise was that the guy turned around to us and said, you've actually just driven most of the course. So it was quite good that we'd actually seen it before we ran it. So that was really fun. You could do loads of things. Like we did a couple of very, very light runs. There was a park just beside us, but one of the things you'll find in Tokyo is there's parks everywhere. So, you just see runners, and it was quite cool. Everybody obviously wearing their I ran whatever marathon, or I'm from this country. So that was nice. Loads of towers you can go up and temples to visit. So I'd kind of recommend keeping it as easy as possible while not just sitting in your room, because you can't go to Tokyo and just sit in your room.
No. And I'd spoken to, you'll have heard the episode, I spoke to Pete Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in his hotel room at the time when I spoke to him, but I think he he told me his prep was he went to a Japanese football game and was bouncing about with like the ultras, the fans. So I think his calves were practically destroyed before he even got there. But he said the same. He had the most amazing time. I think he used to live in Hong Kong. The pictures from everybody that I followed that was there just looked incredible. It looks like the kind of place I'd love to visit. I'm not so sure about running the marathon there, but it just looked like a phenomenal experience. And is that nice, I suppose, then that it's lived, it probably, you went in with a relatively low set
Yeah,
of expectations.
it completely exceeded them. And I'm so glad I went with that kind of mindset because I wouldn't have wanted to be disappointed. But honestly, I know I annoy people by going on about it, but it did exceed them in every single way. The people, like, they're just so nice, so polite, so helpful. And yes, everyone keeps saying to me, but how did you manage to communicate? Because obviously, like, language being a barrier, and it was. But it wasn't because you don't need to be able to speak the same language. Like they still managed to help you. And I know we're going to obviously go into more detail about the marathon, but even on the day and like the volunteers and everything, you could not have asked for more. Just the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah, I think good manners and being helpful is universal, even if you
Hmm.
can't sit and get somebody's life story from them. So let's move on to the marathon itself. I stayed up for a bit to do some dot watching and try to figure out the app. It's not as user friendly as some of the
No.
others, but I had somebody from my club, Pete, running it as well, and you ended up running
Yes.
very close to him. But it was obviously you get a sense there of how things are going, but you never truly know until somebody's finished, and then I hear from you the next morning. So talk me through race day conditions, how that compared to your other majors. It's not really fair to compare it to local events, so let's compare it to the other majors. And was there any big differences then they should look out for if they go there?
So I always say with the majors, because everyone asks what's your favorite, there were so many good things about Tokyo, but like being completely honest, the course wasn't great. Maybe some people enjoyed it, but it was three out and backs. You have to mentally prepare for that because, as you know, I think if you've done a couple of them, especially London, you get that one out and back. So the first one was great because you're like, oh, look, there's the elites, nice distraction. The second one, like you just said, I saw a couple of people I knew, especially Pete. So you're starting to see people and you're like, oh, hey. By the third one, I'm pretty sure that would be 4, 5 miles to go. You start your last one. So you're watching people come back the other way. You're tired, you're starting to just question your life choices. And then you also feel, and it didn't actually feel on the way back, but it looked like they were running up like an incline. So in your head, it's starting to all think, oh, how much further is that uphill on the way back? I struggled with that. So I do think in terms of the course, you've got to be ready to accept that that's the type of course it is. It's not like a big circle or, and I wouldn't say there was particularly a huge amount of like landmarks to see. So I think it's just kind of a get your head down and get the race done. However, the positives were that, or our hotel in particular, was literally on the start line. So it was the best marathon in terms of you didn't have to get on a bus or you didn't have to start your journey on tubes and undergrounds an hour before. We literally stepped out the door. We watched everyone else get ready and we just trotted
Yeah.
out, which was great. Very organized start, obviously. The first 3 miles really congested. I mean, it's no surprise to people. I almost fell because your heels were getting clipped. But once you started, it was great. Support on the course, I didn't know what to expect. It was definitely a lot more polite than, other
Bit
marathons,
more
but
reserved, the Tower
yes,
Bridge.
like clapping, but it was there. I've never seen so many volunteers, and I do really think that a lot of the other marathons could learn a lot from Tokyo. So the way they do it, they ask you not to drop litter, to drop cups, gel wrappers, which is fair enough. But they provide big boxes with bags in them that you throw everything in, and then they obviously pull the bags out, put a new one in, and it's very well done. If someone does accidentally drop something, it's swept away within a second. That made it so much easier to run because you're not tripping over bottles and cups and slipping on gels. So little things like that you didn't really think about before made such a difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was obviously great to see Pete and others because it gives you that little boost, doesn't it? And it's a bit
Yeah.
like, my friend's husband, I don't know if he would say fortunately, but he got stuck with 3 women for the weekend. But he was a great support and he came and handed out bits and pieces to us on the course as well. So, I mean, it totally exceeded expectations. Weather was couldn't have been any better. Maybe a little humid towards the end, and that's when I kind of started to struggle a bit. But overall, I just thought this is your last one, last chance. Just go and do what you can. You do, I think it would be mile 24 and a half, 5, run past a temple. And I do remember thinking, oh, that's so cool because a couple of days before we'd been there. So that was nice. But yeah, it was just everything you could really ask for to finish it, really.
You picked up on an interesting thing when you come back and we were out around together on the that cleanliness and obviously the cultural side of it, but how that might be masking a bit of that air quality, and you think that might have had an impact in your race. So tell me about
Yeah.
that.
So a few people said to me, "What's Japan like?" Because obviously we all know that even before COVID, a lot of the Japanese locals wore masks. Now, obviously, pollution is, I think, highest, if not like it's round about one of the highest in the world there, but you wouldn't ever think it because it is so clean. Like everything is clean, the escalators, the handles, the tiles on the underground walls. But when I finished, like I did start to feel a bit with the like towards the end, but I thought I'm just tired of pushing myself. But the minute I stopped, I was like, like actually really struggled to breathe. And I was like, what's going on here? And then I was like, well, you have just probably breathed in like 26.2 miles, like quite heavily. So again, something else to factor in. There's probably nothing you can really do to change it, but just be aware that it's a city that is heavily polluted, but
Yeah.
you just would never know it visually.
That's obviously something that'll impact you probably later. You feel it more than even at the time.
Hmm.
But and then I did see as well, which didn't affect you as much because of I suppose where you are in the pack. Because what we've not said so far, or what you've not said, is that the race went rather well for you. But the water situation, I think, for people towards the back, again, people running out of water and finding themselves really dehydrated, that became
Hmm.
an issue, but not necessarily your experience.
So I was obviously fortunate that I didn't, there was water available, but so obviously in most marathons now we're drinking out of paper cups. We don't, well, London wasn't like that, but in a lot of them it's the paper cups now. There wasn't a lot of water in those cups. And I hate being the person that has to take two because I'm aware that there's still people that need them. But I was actually starting to feel a bit faint towards the end, maybe the last 10K, like getting pins and needles, and it was really hot. That honestly, it was like a dribble in each cup, and I was like, this just isn't enough.
Yeah.
So I was sometimes taking two, which I felt bad about, especially when I heard they'd ran out. But that's the kind of little things that need to improve because it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, that's not on the runners to feel bad about taking two. That's on organisers to make sure there's enough water and more. I mean, it's not as if it's
Hmm.
something that's going to have a bad date on it and it's going to be wasted
Exactly.
afterwards.
Hmm.
So there's no excuse in any climate that could get humid or hot not to have enough hydration there. It's especially when they were so tight in and around what you could take with you. Um,
Yeah,
because
and that
that
was obviously
that's
a
the
big
double
thing.
that's a double hit, isn't it? Like it's bad enough if you've run out of water on the course, but if you've then told people you can't take your normal fluid
Hmm.
with you, then it's like a double punishment.
It is, and I think, I mean, I'm fortunate that water is enough for me, but I know there's so many people that train and like really use a lot of well, I don't know what they're called, tailwinds and things like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that obviously I think knocked a lot of people because then the rules kept changing as well, which made it quite difficult. So yeah, I think if you're going to be that strict, you've got to make sure that you've got enough for the runners. I
yeah.
mean, I know they also had the Picari sweat, which I didn't try, but again, it was still in cups, so it just wasn't going to be enough for
It's still
people.
still the same volume.
Yeah.
And then let's move on to that. I probably want to know about the last mile, 2 miles, because everything up to that point, I'm still just assuming is pain, no matter what awaits you at the end. That moment when you kind of know you're homing in. Did you know you were on for PB?
No. So I think I've said to you before that I don't like really go out now with a time in my head. I just go and see how I feel and then like push if I can. So I'd been obviously looking at an average pace. However, that meant nothing in Tokyo because the GPS doesn't work. I was getting like miles popping up on my watch, but I didn't know if they were right because some of them just seemed so far out, like too fast, and then there'd be a few that were slow. So I was very much just like, okay, I feel like I should be running really well here, and if what the watch is saying is right, then possibly might slip under. But I really don't know. Then we got to 10K to go, and like I said, I started to just not feel great. And that's when I thought, okay, this is your final major. You're going to pick up your 6-star medal. Do you want to do that like in a wheelchair, or do you want to do it with a smile on your face, enjoy the last part of this. So that's the point where I thought, well, I still don't really know what pace I'm running at, but I'm going to just pull it back a bit now. Like I've done what I came to do, given it a good shot. With 10K to go, I just thought, right, get down that last stretch. You've got the turn, then you're going to come back and you can see what you're coming back because it's right there. So just took in like the tempo that we'd seen the day before, got to the 25-mile mark, and I thought, okay, this is it. Like this is what you've waited for years. And it starts to feel a bit like emotional because you're like, it's the end, but you don't almost want to be the end. So you're kind of getting through that last mile, still obviously fighting, but also just thinking I'm gonna have that medal in a minute. And it was a weird finish because obviously like London and the majors, you get this huge like finish that you run under.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
in Tokyo, it wasn't. So everyone's kind of like, is this us?
Is that, am I done?
I'm like, I think I'll stop my watch now. And so I looked at my watch and it said 3:12:25, and I'm like, I think that if that's right, that's a PB. But then in my head, I was a bit disoriented. It's probably the worst I've felt after a marathon. Like I pushed myself and I think I was really dehydrated. So then I started to get messages through with like screenshots of times, but some said the net time and some said the gun time.
Yeah.
But in my head, because I just was a little bit out of it, I couldn't work out. So I'm like, oh my God, I got a PB. Oh no, I didn't. Oh wait, I did. And for like about 10 minutes, I was like, right, just get your head
Could
straight here.
somebody tell me what I did or not?
Yeah, I was like, did I not? So, I mean, when I saw that, I was like I said to you, I wasn't lying when I said I was going out to Tokyo just to enjoy it. So it was just something I hadn't ever expected to get was a PB there. And I know you don't believe it, but I can't help myself.
I don't know if you've ever run without having a PB somewhere in your back of your head. What was your PB prior?
It was 3:13:05,
And that was 3:12.
25.
5. I mean, it's such fine margins over such a
Mm-hmm.
big distance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's insane to be thinking like you're into the kind of shave a minute off a marathon
Yeah.
when you're out running for that long. But that's where you're at. That's just, I suppose, testament to how far you've pushed your body, your ability, your training.
Mm-hmm.
So made up for you. And then you get over the line, bit of an underwhelming finish, but then you've got that moment of not only collecting your Tokyo medal, but the 6-star medal. And again, not everybody will have listened to episode 1, but we did speak about how many people at that particular marathon were collecting their 6 stars. It
Mm-hmm.
was a world record number. And you had the Guinness World Book of Records there, and you got an
Yeah.
additional medal. But that's because of all the sort of delayed COVID runners and
Mm-hmm.
all these people in the course. So you've got, I suppose, a blessing and a curse there. So many people to share the moment with that would never
Mm-hmm.
normally be the case, but also maybe not that same, like, oh, there's only 100 of us in a tent type thing
Yeah.
that might be. So tell me about it. Tell me about not only getting the medal, but what happens in the immediate aftermath. Does everybody just stand about and look at how great each other are?
Well, I'd say, like you say, I think it was a blessing and a curse. So it was amazing from the fact that the minute you landed in Tokyo, and like I said, doing your little runs in the park, like a lot of people you were bumping into were like, "Oh, are you getting your six? Oh, me too." So I was like, not quite so special. But when you cross the line and you walk to the tent, you're just like, I can't believe this is a way to happen. I think the only downside was because over in Japan just now, there's still COVID is still a big, focus.
Yeah.
So it was quite rushed, like, oh, congratulations, wow, here's your medal, well done, right, can you go now? But I was really fortunate. So Matt that I'd met through Instagram, who lives not too far away from us, we'd kind of gone to the start together. And he'd finished before me, but he'd waited for me. And that was like the nicest thing ever because it was getting to share your moment with somebody that you knew. And he was getting his as well. So I was like, oh, and that was nice. Like we got a photo together. And obviously I had a little bubble on his shoulders because it was something I'd waited for so long. And just to have it in people made you feel special as well. So yes, there was a lot of us, but people are like, oh wow, can I see it? And it was so nice. And then I was fortunate enough to be there with a couple of friends. So, two of my friends that didn't know each other before actually decided to run together. So they had a great time. And then we went back to celebrate with them and my friend's husband as well. So it was nice just to be able to take the medals out, clank, clank, clank the whole night, and just yeah, it was. I can't even describe what it feels like to have it because when you put everything in as a runner and like the time, the cost, and everything, to finally get that is just like an overwhelming feeling you can't even describe, really.
I don't think I saw a picture of you in the next 48 hours without a glass of something in your hand.
Yeah, I was like, woo. No, it was the perfect ending. And to do it, it almost seemed fitting in a way because, like I said, although it shouldn't have been Tokyo, I've always said the majors take you to places you would never go, and really that was the furthest away one. So it was almost fitting that it ended in a place that I probably would never have gone.
How many times did you have a wee greet?
On the day, I think quite a few, and
Yeah.
then it
When
was
you
the
saw
next.
Sandy?
Oh yeah, I was like, he was like, "Don't you ever lose that," and that's the only one you're getting. Don't ask to do it again. But the next day was amazing as well because we'd booked a trip to go to Mount Fiji. And when we got in the car in the morning, the weather was awful. So the poor driver was like so apologetic because, we weren't going to see Mount Fiji. And obviously it wasn't his fault, but that's how polite they are. But he took us to a few places and then he told us to walk up a hill to go to this temple. And obviously, we had our medals on to get the pictures. And when we maybe got halfway up, one of my friends went, turn round, and all the clouds had just cleared. And Mount Fiji was right there, like crystal clear. And that was probably the moment I was like so overwhelmed because I had the medal in my hand, but I was like, we're actually here. Like, this is
Hmm.
something that not a lot of people will ever see. And I took a million photos, but nothing will ever quite do it justice. And I thought,
Yeah.
that's what this medal and all the other ones have taken me. Like, this is where it's got me to. And I think that was probably the most emotional part for me.
Yeah, the photographs can't capture the emotion of a moment actually during the race. Or I've been thinking about that, looking at everybody's marathon pictures, and you see fleeting moments of the pain, the struggle. But to anybody that's not done it and thinking about doing it, it's that moment, that feeling. You can't replicate that. There's no
Mhm.
picture can ever do it justice of pushing through those hard yards. And I was so made up for you. It was just such an incredible experience. I'm also wondering if maybe Scottish bus drivers could learn from that and start apologising for the weather. Be a full time job.
I know, listen, we could learn a lot. I think.
Yeah, but customer service there. I usually find myself having to apologise to bus drivers now, and I don't know what for. It's just
Why?
the way they look at you. They make you feel that you should be apologising.
We're so British, aren't we?
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. The support that you've had, Alison, online, I can see it obviously.
Hmm.
I follow a lot of people that follow you too. The podcast, I think, has probably brought more shared connections between both of us. So seeing through that page just how many people wished you luck, and what's that been like for you? Not just since the podcast, but you've always had a big support on that community. How has that helped push you through that final step of the journey?
It's been amazing, and to be honest, I don't think it'd have been as special without it. Like we've said so many times, like we've made so many friends. I know everyone says it, but I think we've got such a great local running community in this area. But like I say, when it comes to social media, even further afield, I've always liked helping people and then trying to inspire people. And the messages of support and before and after and even tuning, like I had messages after people tracking me like you had stayed up, and it's made the world of difference. And the amount of people have said to me, oh, do you think I could do it now, or how do you do it? And it that's why I do it, for me, but also because I want to inspire other people to try and achieve the things that I have, and also to go and have those opportunities to visit amazing places, make the friends. Like I've spent time at these world majors with people that I've met through social media,
Yeah.
and they've now become like friends for life, and none of the journey would have been the same without them.
You are inspiring people. You're not trying. You really are. I saw loads of the posts of you're inspiring people. Not everybody's going to earn 6 stars. Like that's not going to be everybody's journey, but inspiring people to believe they can, especially hearing your origin of running, of
Hmm.
the shocker of barely training, the bleeding, the chafing, the like you did everything wrong the first time. And do
Yeah.
you know what? That's inspiring to people to go, I bet you get back up and went again.
Hmm.
And actually, somebody had messaged me after when you came back, we had a long run. You joined me in one of my first very long runs after you get back because you're a lunatic and you were in that weird in between bit between
Hmm.
Tokyo and London. And I had somebody message me and said, you're so lucky to get to run all that way with Alison. I'm thinking she's bloody lucky to get to run with me. What are you talking about? Like, I had to listen to her talking about Tokyo for in 3 hours. How am I lucky? But they're absolutely right. In all seriousness, like, see that chance to ask questions, and I'm asking probably what would be stupid questions to an experienced marathon runner, but there isn't a stupid question when you've never run one yourself.
No, I was speaking to somebody yesterday that we both know, we're speaking about just, helping and supporting people. And she said to me, oh, I'm quite conscious that I don't want to be the person that constantly asks. And I was like, no, please do. I mean, what you need to know is that I will never stop talking about it once you ask, but I'll help. I want people to ask me because, like you say, I've made all the mistakes. And when I see people start out on their journey, I do not want them to make the same. But just when you're speaking about inspiring people, I need to tell you this. So when I finished London, which I know we're going to talk about in a minute, Sandy, I said, oh, he said, oh, do you know, maybe I could. And I was like, okay, can I sign you up for the ballot? And he was like, okay. And he's never said okay. So obviously I got on straight away. And then he said, and if I don't get in, I'll maybe do Manchester. And I was like, so you're going to run a marathon? And he was like, yeah, well, I've watched them enough times, so I'll do one.
There you go.
So job done. I can retire.
You inspired me to go and do the marathon. I was swore blind after the last training. I'd never do it again, but it's infectious seeing it. And it's brilliant. People are asking you those questions. There's no such thing as stupid in the running community, except Emily, who's just joined us on the call here. So it's nice to have you here, Emily. We're joined right now by Emily Jackson, and your timing's impeccable. We're moving on to London. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm so excited.
You're like a podcast pro now. You're on all the podcasts.
I know, everybody wants to hear my stories,
What is the chances of me asking you in the same week that you're asked by 0.99?
I know, and then I had to get my agent involved and be like, this is only what I can speak about when I come on your podcast. Ryan's got me an exclusivity right now.
These boys have got no bloody ideas of their own. Like, get your own guests.
Exactly.
Anyway, I think technically they asked you first, so it's probably me reading it. So we're just speaking to Alison about Tokyo, her experience. We're now in the in-between bit between Tokyo and London.
Okay.
Alison, before we move on to London, and I want to pull Emily into the fold because you also didn't have the very conventional run up to London. We had a nice moment at Parkrun, didn't we, in between?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what happened?
Are we talking about the one where you beat me?
No, I knew I was going to beat you. You just run a marathon. That was all right. No, I mean when they're doing the announcements.
I'm only joking. I just thought we'd get that in there.
Yeah, I beat Alison every day. In fact, I beat her after every marathon, just saying.
So I'd obviously stayed away from parkrun for a couple of weeks, maybe a week, because I can't stay away. But it was really nice. So obviously I said to Ryan, I'll come down, knowing that this would be, I'd agreed to do a run with him after Tokyo, and it was really nice. So I got a shout out from Pat and the team, which again, I meant to actually say that when we were speaking about the support. So parkrun's such a big thing to, I think, all of us, like just the way it brings everyone together. And I just thought getting that shout out meant so much because, parkrun's been a huge part of the journey, and it's just again shows how much support there is there. And I know we're saying about people asking questions, a lot of people did actually come up before Tokyo and before London and asked. So that was actually such a special thing. And I think that day they had the Piper as well, didn't they? So it all just felt very nice.
It was brilliant. Parkrun is definitely the sort of glue that binds this podcast's running community. If there is such a thing, we don't all go to the same one all the time, but you're liable to bump into somebody. And Emily, we met you.
I think it was that Parkrun.
It was that one, yeah.
That one?
I think it might be the same one. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were doing the warm up as well. We missed you at the end because you were doing some cool down laps, like a marathon saddle.
Or were you not swimming in the loch?
Not allowed to swim in that loch, are you?
No, you'd be more liable to come out in a shopping trolley than you would be with anything else. You definitely shouldn't. No, you shouldn't swim in there. No. Definitely not. So, Emily, welcome to Press Play and Run. Formally, I'll start being nice to you now and call you by your given name and not the tube, as you're saved in my phone now.
Love it.
I saved Emily's this because she is helping me, along with Alison and another couple of people, just organise this first podcast meetup, which is growing arms and legs on a daily basis. So we formed a little WhatsApp group and Emily had all the plans in place, and then we checked and she had the complete wrong route. So she was going to have us in a different bit of Glasgow. So that's why she is
I
Emily the
honestly
Tube
don't even know
after
what I was looking at.
one job, failed spectacularly, and she had her clipboard removed. So we've not given her it back
No,
yet.
I'm just the ideas woman. I just come up with all the ridiculous ideas, start everybody baking,
Yeah.
Empire biscuits and stuff,
Aye.
and then realise that, take a
Yeah.
step back, Emily.
Aye, and somebody's already got the Empire biscuit scene handled. Does
I
that ruin the
think so.
tune? I think I'm doing that race. So we'll get our Empire biscuit there. Emily, you have been a bit busy in the marathon front.
Yes.
So before I take you and Alison to London, you ran Brighton.
I did. Yes, that was my main race. Yes.
Yeah, that was only one I knew you were doing, and then
Me too.
It just turns out you were doing a marathon every weekend after that as well. But I'm interested to know about Brighton because that was a race that wasn't then was. London took it over. Tell me about the experience. Tell me about that event and where that would rank on what you've experienced.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about the event that never was, I mean, you live up here, so you don't really kind of know the ins and outs of things down south. I'd never really known anybody else that ran Brighton. So, I entered all gung-ho, booked my accommodation, and then there's all this stuff coming out about it might not go ahead. So, but luckily the London Marathon events took it over, and it was plain sailing from there. Although I think in future years it'll be even better because they've taken it over. They probably took it over with less time to kind of organise, like a proper expo, a proper, like a post-event village after it and things. But it was still a really well-run event. My boss actually lives down in Brighton, so it was part of the reason. I've never actually met him in person. I went down there, kind of seeing his pictures and stuff like that. Brighton always looked great. And I sort of wanted, I'd done marathons in the past and I've trained with people and went with people, and there's always that awkward bit of, do you run together, do you not? So there was part of me that was like, I just kind of want to go and do something by myself, and then I have no hanging off for somebody, making them wait for me, feeling guilty and things. So that was sort of my reason for Brighton. And also just I'm quite impulsive, so it was like booked before I'd even finished my cup of tea. Yeah, I was really excited, and I thought it was a great event. The routes changed. In previous years it used to go out to this like power station on this like kind of an offshoot of it, like the island just off the sea. And when you look at a route like that, you think that looks great, in the sea. I experienced a bit of that power station, and it is not nice.
No, not the one.
Yes, and I'd say for about 23 miles of that race, I was loving life until that point where you've got a turn, you can see everybody coming back, and this is the finish time. And I couldn't get to that turn. And I think it was probably the only moment where I ended up, I thought it was under my breath, but it really wasn't, because the guy next to me went, I know, was when I went, for fuck's sake,
yeah.
quite loudly, because you turned a corner and still people were running back. And I thought, oh, no.
If you only have one of those moments in a marathon, that's at least 34 less than I have on any given training run.
I know, and I think it was all the hills were done in the first half. All the kind of, that extra effort is done when you're probably feeling your absolute best. And then coming back into Brighton, you kind of go further out. Probably should have researched where these places are before. It was a windmill somewhere out in the coast, and you come back and the view,
it narrows it down.
The view is just spectacular, just seeing that blue sea. And then your other half is completely in Brighton, in the city centre, and then in Hove, which if you've ever done like the Great North Run, it had that vibe of residential people out giving you orange slices and having the hoses out so that you could cool down. I mean, it was just brilliant. So that kind of helped your second half, but that power station was a bit of a drag. So
Brighton's I love Brighton, and my sister only lives an hour.
Oh, really?
Less than an hour north of it, so we go there when we go visit, and I think I'm interested to see what becomes of that event with London taking it over, because the prestige will definitely grow. They'll do it properly. They've all got all the connections, obviously, to make it something. So I think that will be one that gets bigger and bigger. Somebody else I know was running it the same day as you, so it was nice to follow you there. You missed the introduction to this, where I said this is a podcast for people that sort of race schedule based on FOMO and bad life decisions. And you are it.
Yeah, man.
You're absolutely it.
I have major FOMO on everything.
both of you then end up in the same place where you've just run a marathon. You actually did Manchester as well, Emily, because you're an absolute crackpot. So how did that one happen?
So I was always,
or why did that one happen?
So I was always going to Manchester. It was basically going to be my backup if Brighton get pulled. I never ever entered it. I thought I'll wait till what happens with Brighton. Manchester always sends you lots of emails and social media posts about, sign up now. And it's literally open until like 2 days before the event. So I was like, I'll sign up for Manchester if Brighton gets pulled. But then my friends were going to Manchester, the ones that I'd trained with at the weekends and running. So I thought, I'll go anyway. FOMO, I have to go. And this will be really exciting watching people run. And then I did Brighton, was on a high from that. And I thought, I'm going to be in Manchester anyway. Why not just run Manchester? So that was it.
And you ran it as a bit of a victory lap. I saw all the carry on and the dancing and which is a way to do a marathon. And I'm going to get to this because I think that post-marathon journey is something I'm interested in. But Alison, your prep, tell me about your prep in between, because you were that rock and a hard place of not knowing really how much rest do I need, how many miles do I need to keep in the legs. I know we had one big run together, but how did you make the decision about what to do before London?
It was really hard, and like most marathon runners, you have a plan. I didn't. My coach has said, like, there's not much more I can do for you. I hope he meant just in between Tokyo and London and not in general. But it was trying to, like you say, find the balance. So we did that one run together, and I did one 19-mile run that was quite hilly. But other than that, I chose to do a few races just to keep legs going, get a bit of speed in there. I do 10-milers and a 10K race.
Tom Scott.
Yeah, Tom Scott. And that Ballot Clydebank. Then the British Masters 10K Grangemouth the week before. But yeah, it was a case of, and I really didn't know what I was doing, whether to do a bit more or not do too much so that your legs weren't burnt. And still don't know if I did the right thing or not, but I just tried to do what I thought was the right thing to do and listen to my body for once.
Well, you placed in the British Masters, so I would say you did something all right. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was I still can't quite believe that one. My coach has said to me, "Why there's a 10K down at Grangemouth? Why don't you sign up? It's the British Masters." And I was like, well, we all know my thoughts on 10Ks. And yeah, like, how'd I ever get a medal? And he was like, well, why not? I mean, you've got to be in it. So I thought I'll just go because, like I said, it was another race. I kind of found, because I was tired after Tokyo, I thought, at least if I keep doing races, it's running with other people. Like when we went out, I deliberately didn't want to do much myself. So I ran the race, and it was actually, I felt pretty good for a 10K. One of my friends, Jackie, came to support as well. Then that was fine, went home. Actually, I didn't go home. I went to a charity afternoon tea for Katie that we go to part run with. Her partner was running London. And then I had all these missed calls after. And it was to tell me that I'd won a bronze medal. And I was like, and again, that was one of those moments I almost burst into tears. I was like, I can't, pardon me? Especially a 10K. So that was a nice little boost ahead of going to London the following weekend as well.
And why was that a phone call? Why did you not know that when you were there?
To be honest, because we didn't wait until the very end for the announcements, because I'd all committed to doing too much at once as usual. I needed to literally rush, wipe myself down and get to an afternoon tea that I'd agreed to go to. So I didn't even get to enjoy the moment of winning a British Masters medal.
This is my kind of chat.
Yeah.
I could have been doing without the wiping yourself down part, but there you go. Now we have it. So Emily would have been cold dipping and you're wiping yourself down. Jeez Louise. If you guys ever need a shower, I'm happy to just go for a run and tell Nicola you're coming here, because I've got all my friends don't have showers anymore.
Yeah, multitasking.
Yeah, so Andy thinks Alison's Mrs. Nice Person. That's what she really is. She turns up for races and leaves with her entourage before the medals. If it's not gold, she's not staying, just so you know if you're going to an event. Right, then London comes, and Emily, I didn't even know you were travelling to London. You are like an international woman of mystery.
I know.
So you go to, and Alison, I knew your plan. You were starting the championship pen, although you kept that very low key, very quiet. You didn't
like
speak
talk
much about that at all.
No,
you really didn't, actually, compared to how much we usually talk about running.
Compared to how we would talk about it, Ryan.
I absolutely. I mean, all those times I started in the championship pen.
I can barely remember him.
If I could count them in one hand, I'd have no hand. But Emily, you're down there doing the virtual London,
Mhm.
which I didn't know you were doing. I don't know why you did it, because you're just run 2 marathons in the weeks preceding it.
Mhm.
And you started at midnight. So let's start with you. You took in the expo. You did the whole shebang, didn't you?
Oh, I did. So the pre-story is that it's obviously I never meant to do Manchester. So really that was probably poor planning on my part, but FOMO.
You think?
FOMO. And so I was going to London for something else for this podcast show at the O2, but my friend who I was going with, she sadly couldn't make it. And I was like, do I just go myself? I'd already signed up to this virtual London. I thought, why not? I just did Brighton by myself. Kind of quite liked doing my own thing. So I thought I'll go to London. I'd ran London Marathon 10 years ago, Ballot Place. Lucky. But never really wanted to desperately run it again. But we never got to the expo the last time because when we arrived in London, it was too late. So I kind of was like, I'm going to go. I'm going to go and see what it's like. I mean, I'm still running the London Marathon, albeit slightly differently. It was quite exciting, like seeing everybody. It was so busy. But then, then I turn a corner, and because I'm high as a kite on my own, haven't really spoken to people apart from complete strangers, I turn around and there's Alison. And I literally ran to her, even though we've met once. And I'm like, Alison, expecting that she'll know exactly who I am, exactly at that moment, but she did, which was lovely, and got to meet or scare her husband Sandy as well. So I really loved it. I thought it was great to meet you two. I mean, I never shut up.
No, it was brilliant, wasn't it? And Sandy's like, it's like Emily, right?
Do you know, you sometimes have, or maybe you don't, have these outer body experiences where you're currently talking, but you can see yourself and you go, Emily, shut up.
Stop using your words. Stop using your words.
Stop talking now. Right now.
Sandy is still in therapy from the conversation, I think. Is that right, Alison?
You're like, yeah, but she's the funniest person I've ever met.
Just think of my poor husband.
Emily, in our probably nervous marathon excited energy, told Sandy that she's thinking about starting an OnlyFans, selling her pool water from her cold dipping.
I mean, there's a market for everything.
There really is.
It was mainly because I thought about getting a barrel, but I was like, it's so expensive to get a barrel, and hence why we thought of ways we could make money. And I'm like, surely there's an avenue for pool water.
100% there will be. I love the fact you're saying we as if Sandy was a willing collaborator in this.
It was like Dragon's Den.
You're talking as if he wasn't a victim of the conversation and actually was an active part.
I should have realised when he was looking about, like, how do I leave this conversation?
Security.
So we're just going to plan for me and Alison just to sit in her wheelie bins one day for him to come home and discover.
Yeah.
What was the podcast event you were at? Sorry, Alison. What was the podcast event you were going down for?
It was Parenting Hell. It was like that kind of Rob Beckett podcast.
That's my wife's favourite podcast.
Oh, is it? Do you know, it's funny, I booked the tickets and stopped listening to it.
Oh, really? She loves it. She adores it.
It's great, but they moved from Apple to Spotify, and I do have Spotify, but I kind of forget the podcast. You know, I usually always listen to one.
Yeah, they're exclusively on there, which is a weird one because they're not on both. So sorry, Alison, I cut across you there.
No, sorry, Alison.
Oh no, I can't even remember what I was going to say now. It was something. Oh yeah, Sandy's even power washed the wheelie bin for you.
Honestly, this summer is going to be wheelie bin hot girl summer. I tell you.
Wheelie bin hot girl summer. There's the name of the episode. Thank you very much. That's us getting an episode title. I was wondering what it would be. That's the moment. Wheelie bin hot girl summer with Alison Jardine and Emily Jackson. Perfect. What
it's like a girl band or something.
This would end up being the episode that people start finding through Google, won't it? You know, that's the title. All the weirdos Googling for that.
We could add on to like Kaylee's run karaoke, have wheelie bin karaoke. I mean,
there we go.
Grows.
And then sell the water.
I tried a run karaoke. They made a pig's ear of it and it didn't store the video.
Oh no.
It was recording. Can you only record a certain amount of time?
I don't think so. So you're better to record it on Instagram.
Yeah. She told me what to do, but I don't know if it was because I was running at the same time. I don't know what happened. They just deleted the video.
Was it not like a 30-second video or a 20-second video or something?
What a singer as well.
You
realise you're only meant to lip
disappointed.
sync, Ryan.
I mean, that might have been the only time you ever caught me running dressed as Cher, singing as Cher.
I'm coming to watch you run. That sounds
Remember the video with the big cannon, Cher? I was in that gear, that leather onesie.
I tell
Well,
you,
there you go.
this conversation is going right down my street.
Well, I'll just make sure I check the explicit box on the podcast warning. Josh and Brody, sorry, can't listen to this one. My bad. So,
the answer to your
Alison,
original question.
I don't even know. I think you did. I don't even know if I asked a question. Something about an expo. Alison, tell me about your Is it different for the pen you're in at the expo, or is it just all the same? Do you need to go in with the commoners?
Yeah, you know, at the expo, we've just kind of got to, walk about the riffraff really. But
Oh, yuck.
Things. But no, it was. I enjoyed the expo obviously more for seeing Emily because that made it fun.
Okay.
No, it was back to normal. I would say this year. I think London, and probably not just London, but the last couple of years has been tough for a lot of the marathons and expos with COVID and restrictions. So I just said it got back normal. However, I was quite annoyed about one thing. So obviously I had desperately wanted my name on the board for the 6 stars. That's the only reason you run it, so you can point at your name at the expo. And they left it in Boston.
They left the board?
Yes. And I was like, well, now I'm just going to have to go to, what's the next one? Berlin or Chicago and do it again. Yeah, just so I can point at my name.
Sharpie, name written on, point. That's cheaper than going to Berlin.
No, it's not. It's not the same.
I'm trying to save your marriage. You can't go. You're not going.
But we honestly, well, I said to you, didn't I, Emily? I was like, where is this board? And one of my friends had a stand at the expo. I was like, have you seen this? And then it took Jackie to go in later and ask again. And because they kept pointing us to this place and it wasn't there. And then they eventually told her they left it in Boston.
That's
yeah.
devastating for people given. And it sounds like first world problems, but it's a big moment for if you've got it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I would know. Neither would you, Emily. I assume you've not on.
No.
How many stars have you got?
One.
Well,
how many stars you got, Ryan?
I'm not a star in any way, shape, or form. I have stars.
Our names are on the bus stop. That's what it is.
Exactly. Toilet wall. I wrote my own name in the toilet wall.
Rido.
I wonder why I was getting those texts. Rido. Exactly. Rizo, but I'll take Rido.
Okay.
Emily, you ran the virtual at midnight in London, really safe city, with strangers. Brilliant idea. Great safety.
So that's kind of why I never told anybody. I mean, that sounds even worse.
That sounds like horrific decision making, but tell me.
So I told my friend Annika, I told her, and she had my location and where I was staying and all, because I had to cancel my hotel that was booked for my friend because it was much more expensive on my own. So I booked an Airbnb really last minute. And yeah, I was going to this. I told them what I was doing. Again, more strangers. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really tell many people about it because I think I was really nervous about it. I mean, it's just so random, go and meet a bunch of strangers at the McDonald's at Trafalgar Square and then start running at 2 minutes past midnight. And I was like, right, I'll go there a wee bit earlier. I mean, by the time I got there, it was about 10:30, 11:15, because I was like, I don't want to travel in London by myself. I mean, somebody might kidnap me. London doesn't sleep. I mean, it was mobbed the whole time. It was mobbed. And then we couldn't even get into McDonald's because all the drunk people were ruining it for us runners. So we had to sit in Charing Cross Station, but it became like a total party. We all had these T-shirts on with our names and it said backwards London or something. I should really look at the T-shirt.
How did you meet these people? I feel like we've missed an important step. What, is this like running Tinder or something? How do you meet people that want to meet up at midnight?
Why is that not a thing?
Because have you met runners? What are you into? Running. What are you into? Running. Brilliant. K's or miles.
Do you want to talk about my run?
Wait until show you my splits. Wait until show you my splits.
So I think because I was going to London, for some reason I ended up on, I don't know what happened. I don't know what, this is like the tube, I just don't know what happens really. But I ended up in a Facebook group going, if you don't get into London ballot, we're doing London in reverse, doing the virtual course. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, because London for me was my first marathon 10 years ago, and it was things are different now. People have so much more knowledge and things. Back then, the only people I knew who had run marathons were super fast. So I had no experience. So it wasn't like the best experience of my life, but it was also really busy. And I thought, well, this is interesting. Like, get to see like the cool sights of London, but it's also like really quiet at night. Not quite. But so yeah, I joined that Facebook group. I was going to London anyway, thought, what could go wrong? You know.
You
And
need a carer.
I know. And even at I'm like looking behind me, like my husband doesn't even know.
My husband was panicking for you. He kept saying, how do you think she's going to be okay? And she's really doing this at night? And is there going to be other people? And do you think it's safe? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't even get her number.
You're like, shush, Sandy, I need my sleep. I'm running London tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, I bet you, Alison, to finish. Let's put it that way. The only time that would happen for me.
She also started in the championship pen, just like that, hunted out by a security guard.
I know, but no, it was really good. I mean, there was a massive amount of us. It was unofficial, so it was like nobody really took to doing much organisation. We sort of just fell together in groups. So that was probably the downside. Like, you could have ended up in a group that they were too fast for you, and then you're hanging on for dear life. There's that bit in Canary Wharf, but I had the route on my watch. I mean, I'm pointing to my watch in case you didn't know what a watch was. And when you get to Canary Wharf, your signal just goes wonky. So it was like you're on the wrong way, but I'm following the blue line, which became like a long-standing joke to where is the blue line, because you're just like, some places don't have barriers or anything up yet, so it's not super clear, and Canary Wharf's quite wonky, the part of the route. So I think that side of it was a bit awkward. I mean, I was lucky. I was in a nice wee group and we were doing sort of just kind of working together. We sort of did that Jeffing, I think it's called. So run for a bit, walk for a bit. And that seemed to work because who knew what you were going to be like through the night? I mean, you're meant to be sleeping. And I'd already ran parkrun that morning and a running event at ASICS the night before. I mean,
I'd never heard the word jeffing until last week. I've heard it about 5 times since. It sounds like something people do in a car park that they shouldn't be doing. I don't know why it's suddenly become prominent, but the fact that you're doing it tells it's probably another bad life choice. So that's a pretty wild, cool experience on one hand. You've probably done everything I would advise my children never to do in their life. Yeah. But congratulations on surviving.
I know, I love to tell the tale. And I have to say, like, I mean, there was a guy that sort of, he did it last year and he sort of pulled it together, like made the GPX route for your watch and stuff. He was on a bike for most of it. So he did kind of cycle about, checking where people were. But how, that's not the most safe thing in the world either, because, the murderer behind you could just wait for him to leave.
Or he could be the one on the bike.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't going to go full-blown murder to start with, but let's just go to the extreme. Brilliant, Emily.
I'm either all there or nowhere.
Right. Alison, you had a more conventional London marathon. Well, you didn't really. You ran by Kipchoge, for God's sake. It's probably just as wild. So tell me about the championship pen, but also tell me about where your head was going in there, because we've spoken about it a tiny wee bit since. And I know what you do yourself pressure-wise, so talk me through the difference in that experience.
I just feel like my story is not that exciting compared to Emily.
You didn't even nearly die.
Yeah, it was a weird one for me. So obviously, like you say, I put a lot of pressure on myself. And the day of the X, like, it was great having a laugh, and I did feel okay. But the thing that I do have it a lot at various other races, but most runners, when we talk about this all the time, stomach issues. So my nerves were getting the better of me for the days leading up to it. So I think I literally was running on empty anyway. Won't go into much more detail than that, but I'm sure you can imagine. But yeah, I think for me, the nerves just got the better of me. Starting in the championship start was like obviously an amazing opportunity, but there was that added pressure as well. It was great because, you got like extra little tents and an area to warm up, and toilet queues weren't so big, and that was all nice. But you were also standing with these amazing, amazing runners. Like, I stand at the start and one of them's going, I think I'll just go out at 6:35. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like my 5K pace, not my marathon. And then I was like, oh, I don't think I should be here. And it's that like mental kind of battle you have with yourself. But then I was like, no, come on, enjoy this. Like, it's probably the only time you're going to be here. And, to me, like the best part of the start was, you've got the elites running or setting up just in front of you, getting announced. And, I was on BBC marathon coverage, which made my life. And yeah, I think my now, favorite party line is going to be I ran past Kipchoge in London Marathon because that made my life. He was starting the race and he was literally there, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. So that was amazing. But I would have said it was probably a mile in, and I just knew it wasn't going to be my day. My legs started to hurt, and I've never had a pain in that bit of my leg ever. And I just thought, okay, this is in your head because it's still paranoia can go into the race. And I just didn't, I don't know, I just can't even describe it. I just didn't feel it. And I do possibly think it was the running on empty thing. I was trying my best to keep food down and it just wasn't happening. And I think I hadn't been sleeping well. And like we said earlier, had I overdone it in training? I don't know. Tokyo was only like 7 weeks before, but I just thought, right, you're just gonna have to get the head down and do this. And to be honest, as much as like I got a stitch, I've never had a stitch and I'm running. Then the pain came back in my leg, then my foot hurt, and it was just everything. But I think mentally for me was. I think I realized in that race I was stronger than I realized because there were so many times I thought about walking off. Like, I thought, right, I'll get to Sandy at, 11 and a half, 12 miles, and I could just say to him, I'm really not feeling this, but I could just put a fake smile on and keep going. So I did. Then I knew there was going to be people at Tower Bridge, so I thought, right, just focus on that. And then, like you say, that bit in Canary Wharf, it's the windy bit. You completely lose the GPS. By that point, I was genuinely thinking, I know where the tube station is. I could just go now. And I thought, right, you've got three choices. You see Sandy at 19, so you can either stop and say, I want to go, go. You can stop and say, I'm not enjoying this and carry on, but I don't think my legs would start again. Or you can put on that fake smile and just run by. So I went with that option. And he was like, well, I actually thought you were doing really well. And I was like, no, I was genuinely hating my life. But then I've said to so many people, and I've said it to you, and I've put it on Instagram, why you should enjoy London. And I thought, I never ever get the chance to enjoy it because I'm always like looking at a watch, always going for some time, qualifier, whatever. And I thought, no, do you know what? You're here, you've got this far, you're not going to quit because you don't. So just enjoy it. So see, for those last few miles I did. I didn't give up, I kept fighting, but for the first time ever, I saw the London Eye and I saw Big Ben, and I really took in like the crowds on the last few miles that I tell everyone to like take in. And yeah, it didn't go to plan, but I finished in a time I was more than happy with. Like I was absolutely delighted. I've got photos of me like fighting until the very end. And it wasn't the perfect race for so many reasons, but I loved those last few miles and having the people at the end that I wanted to be there, like Sandy and friends. Like I couldn't have really asked for much more. So, and it was only at the end I realized I've run 4 majors in the last year. And I thought, that's probably why you're tired too. So time to have a wee bit of a rest.
A couple of probably more serious takeaways before we get back to just winding each other up. No pros are running marathons that close together and expecting to peak on both. It's if it was doable, it would be been done because there would be financial benefits to them doing it. And so clearly you can't peak every single marathon that close together. Emily, you've just run 3 in a month and a bit, or just under a month.
Sure.
But you're also running that in a very different. You're not trying to PB on that. You're jeffing, as you said, which is walk run for anybody that's not a creep and doesn't want to hang about car parks. But that's so. There's a whole different thing between getting round 3 marathons and running with your pals and that part and pushing for times. And Alison, you probably suffered from being at your physical peak for Tokyo, can't get back there again, but also you put yourself under an inordinate amount of pressure. And I think people that know you will find that weird that you're standing in any pen and believing that you don't belong, because that's probably the way that a lot of us view you. It's even, but we've said this before, it's like standing in the front of the line at Park Run. You don't feel like you belong, so you stand further back than you should, and you start to feel more comfortable the further back you go, when actually you are where you are because you deserve to be there. I hope that you're saying you won't be there again. You probably will be. Knowing you, I think you probably will be. I hope that you accept where you're at and you're running as well, because it's an amazing achievement. And you're saying that wasn't the race you wanted. What did you finish in?
3:16:35.
Right, so I mean, you're talking like 6 minutes away from, or 4 minutes away from what you were trying to run. And I mean, Emily finished at 3:16 a.m, so it's nearly the same.
I wish.
No.
I think I was at Tower Bridge at that point.
But I saw Emily's face there. It's so relative, isn't it? Like, what I would bite the hand off you for that time finish at the moment, and it just is where you're at.
And I think that's the important thing as well. Like, I'm absolutely not saying that I wasn't happy with my time, because I was. See, when I saw the time, like a bit like Tokyo, I didn't know what I was getting because the GPS just goes, and you're kind of just at that point. I was like, I don't even care now, just enjoy this. I was delighted, and I still am. Like, to be able, like, say, to run within 7 weeks 2 times like that, like, I'm honestly so happy. I think I was just disappointed and that my body gave up that day, and it's really thinking about it in a sensible way. Of course, there was a chance that was going to happen, because you can't run that fast and push your body to the limits every time and expect it to hang on. And it was kind of getting to that point where I knew I needed to take a break.
The nerves as well, though,
Yeah, the
Alison, with
nerves.
the feeling, that's not helping. All of
That
that's
didn't.
just sapping away
Too
energy.
much.
And I know, but you felt this was part of why we got you on today. You felt a bit squeamish about writing your race report on Instagram for this, and I want you to talk to me about that, and then I want to bring Emily in for something as well. But tell me why you had the reservations about writing it. What was it you were afraid of coming across?
So I don't ever want people to think that I was disappointed with anything that happened on Sunday, because one of my pet hates, and I'm sure we've spoken about this on one of the episodes before, is like people saying, "Oh, but I'm not a real runner," and I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm sitting going, "Oh, 3 hours 16 is rubbish and what a disappointment, I shouldn't have turned up," because it's not. I know that's an amazing time. See, a year ago, if you told me I'd get that, I'd be like, no way. I mean, I used to look at the qualifying times and think I'd only ever get them through charity, so it's not. And I just didn't want to come across as a person like that. I think if you can, I've got like so much respect for people that do marathons in 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, because we all know what it takes. Like, you've got the time on your feet, the pressure on your body, like, to cross a line is an achievement in itself. So I just didn't want to come across as that person that was like, that was pathetic, because I've seen that, I've read it, and it really infuriates me. So I just was conscious not to come across that way.
But it's you need to give yourself permission to still be disappointed in elements of a race. That's all right. Again, that's where you're at, and it's not the time. Time's irrelevant. You can be disappointed that on the day either nerves got more of you than you would have liked, or your body didn't react the way you hoped. That's fine. And Emily, I saw your post. I think I saw it late. A bit of that feeling a bit down after 3 experiences like that, and you've been on holiday and high, and you're building. It's like peaking again, isn't it? You peak, but then afterwards, and you can feel a wee bit like, God, I've got a cheek to be ungrateful. I've just had these amazing experiences, totally. And I feel. But talk to me about how you were feeling in the aftermath, because I wanted to speak to both of you about post-marathon blues, as they're often called, but just that void of had the goal, then what?
Yeah, because I think like Bob, like the Kilsyth runner, he put a post up about it, and it was that. I think it's like the post-social high. It's not even sometimes the marathon blues, because don't get me wrong, I don't think the day after I could have ran anywhere. It's not like I was desperate to run again, but it's more just you're up there, you've got so much to look forward to, there's so much happening, and then you're like, oh, what did I do in May? And you're sort of like, can I do 4 marathons in a month? No. But it's trying to give yourself that rest. But also, I'd put something on yesterday going, yes, I'll rest, but I also really miss running when I don't run. So it's just finding your sort of happy medium, but it's also like just give in to like feeling a bit rubbish. Exactly. You're allowed to just have a cry or just be a bit down about it. But, it's just picking yourself up after that. It's just normal. I think it's just normal to feel like that, instead of going, and don't get jealous because everybody else's exciting things are happening this month. Rather you've had your moment.
That in between space is one you just need to navigate, and you can't run the way you were running, but why wouldn't you take a period of adjustment after having life dictated for 6 days out of 7 on a plan for months
Oh,
and months, and
definitely.
Alison for a year
Hmm.
practically? And
Yeah.
so, well, you must have experienced that, Alison, as well, like various points.
Yeah, like I think after London this time, like my body was broken, like, and I think mentally I was a bit broken too, and it took me a good few days to even feel normal. I was walking about like a zombie, trying to get back to work, try to adjust to everything that just happened in that weekend, and not just that, I hadn't really let Tokyo and everything sink in because it was just get to the next thing. But yeah, every single time you do a marathon, it's that just what you're saying, that you're watching others try and like, their marathons are next or whatever race, and you're like, oh, I want to do it. I think this is the first time, and I said this to somebody, that I haven't felt like that. Like I'm so excited to come and cheer on at Edinburgh and not run it and like get to experience it from the other side. And yeah, I've got lots of 10Ks this summer, but I think for the first time, although I'm kind of sad not to have a marathon, and I know when like the ones start up in September, October, I'll be like, I'm just going to try and enjoy not marathon training because it's taken over my life for God, the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And I think if you're going to progress as well, there needs to be a period of rest, recuperation, and let the
Mhm.
body adapt. And that
Yeah.
will be the next chapter of that, like time to go at it fresh and have all that juice again to
Hmm.
go. And Emily, same, like you're closer to me and you're running, in that it's not about 6 hours and it's not pushing for time out, but there needs to be a period as well where you just accept that this month's not that exciting. I'm
Exactly.
not doing 10 races.
I know, but then you can also find like the joy in other things, like Alison's saying. I'm really looking forward to coming to Edinburgh, especially like since I like created that Instagram account. I feel like I know so many people that are running, and I'm so looking forward to that side. Because you do go and support, and you actually realize how much fun it is. I mean, I did virtual London, did I mention? And
I think so.
and when I got back to my apartment, I literally went for a bath and got ready and went back out to watch it. I was at the 9 miles and I missed Alison because I think you come through at 9.3 and I'm just after that. But you forget how busy London is. My eyes were
Hmm.
just
Mhm.
like this. Um, but I went out and supported like friends that I knew were running and then walked from there to London Bridge for my station because I couldn't go on a tube for love nor money. But it was so exciting to see some of my friends who had saw me and they came over and gave me a hug. I mean, they looked quite emotional. I felt quite emotional,
Mhm.
but it's just so exciting to like support as well. So it's
Yeah.
just looking at different things to do that it doesn't need to be such a big time suck like a marathon.
No,
But,
exactly. And
sometimes
park running, all these
exactly.
connections that we've made, and doing the podcast meetup and all this kind of stuff for everybody. I'm hoping that just helps to bring us all
Hmm.
sort of closer together in that, getting to know each other beyond Instagram. I've been lucky to meet quite a lot of people now at races that come up. Yesterday I was racing and a few people come up to tell me, and they're so.
Just no payment.
Somebody come up and went, Scottish runner. I was like, Ryan, just Ryan's fine. Like I'm feeling almost that mortification that I feel that I've got a special place for that mortification. They're like, I saw you when I was in the car, but you were talking to people, so I didn't. Like, just come up and say hi. Yeah, it's just me. We're fine. So that's people that are coming to the meetup though, and I can't wait for them to get to know each other so that barrier is removed of thinking that you're somebody else. It's a bloody podcast. You can literally start one up with a phone and a microphone. It makes no difference. But there's going to be chances, I think, over the next few months for all of us to run together, park run together, wee bit of tourism,
Hmm.
park run. I can't wait for all of that. I've got Edinburgh. I was wishing it my weeks away when you guys were doing Manchester, and I was so jealous watching the TV, not of necessarily the event, of the fact that you were going to be done soon. I'm like, and
Yeah.
I've got another 4 weeks of long running, and now it's getting creeping. I mean, I've only got one more big week, and then I'm starting to taper back
Mhm.
down. And now I'm like, oh my God, I need another 6 weeks. I've got that bit going. I was wishing it would be here. Now I'm wishing it a bit further away, but I can't wait to do more of that fun stuff that doesn't take 4 hours, like in
Yeah.
between for all
Find
of
that
us.
joy again.
Yeah,
The,
it's
the
hard. I mean,
schedule's hard.
and it's amazing to have the discipline, and if you've got a plan, stick to your plan. That's the one thing I've learned about it is all the people I watch in successful marathons stick to the plan. They don't run too much. They don't run the junk miles. They don't cut runs short, left, right, and centre. Just stick to your plan. But that is, you're taking away time from other bits of your life. It's so bloody hard. Squeezing it all in.
Mhm.
So lots of learning to be done, but I think we're going to have a great summer, autumn coming in. There are, Alison, you've got 10Ks.
Mhm.
Emily, we've got some events that we'll talk about down the line, I'm sure, as well, coming up. I've got my ultra as well. So plenty still happening. But can I ask you both then, what is on the plans for the rest of the year? Alison, you're saying you've got races. Tell me what you've got signed up for.
Yeah, so I've signed up for the Babcock series, which is 3 10Ks around Glasgow. The first one is actually this Thursday, which, to be honest, is a little bit close for my liking, but I've committed, so I'll go. But what I was looking forward to as well, I was thinking about this before we came on, is what we've spoken about for so long now, and is doing some park run tourism, because as much as I love Strathclyde, we've said for so long, of once we've finally all done these marathons, we can go and do that. So that's kind of how I'm getting over the blues, is focusing on it's going to be fun. Like, we can go and meet more people and just enjoy it. So that's my plan: park runs, horrible 10Ks, and lots of fun and socialising with you guys.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Emily? What's on the agenda, summer into autumn?
So I'm the same as Alison. I'm signed up for the Babcock 10Ks,
yay!
and I also feel the same way about 10Ks as well. So I'm not sure if my legs are there yet, but that's fine. And then I've got a couple of like little events. I'm doing something that blast running. It's like a sunset run in June. And I'm just trying to find things that I've never done before.
Yeah.
So I'm doing Loch Ness 24 Wheelie as part of a team or several teams. I think we've got 5 teams now, Ryan.
I know, I've not told you that, Alison. I signed up through the week.
I heard from someone else that signed up to me.
It was my last day. It was my last weapon to try and get Susan Swarbrick to sign up for it.
Susan that told me.
She was this close on the wire. I'm like, right, if you can't run a lap, I'll come and I'll do that lap. So she's signed up. I'm delighted for her.
Yeah. So that'll be great. It's a 24-hour relay, and again, that's like a group that's really came together over social media. I mean, some people have known each other before, but it's sort of how we all became friends, and it's great. So got that booked, and at the moment I'm looking for an autumn marathon. So yes. Enjoy yourself with that. Edinburgh for me, I've got the ultra, and then I've got that Loch Ness, which I'm just taking as a camping trip with some running and interrupting it. And I've got a couple of 10Ks as well. I think I've got round the Toon, and I have the Glasgow men's 10K the day of the meetup. But I don't know if I'm going to run that yet. It just depends how my legs are. I was going to ask, are you going to have a quick wipe before the
wipe down, cold dip, sell the wipes, sell the pool water.
Do you think they would let us use one of their wheelie bins?
Oh, I thought you were going to say they're wet wipes. I was going to say, I don't think you can borrow them. I think you just need to bring your own. I'm going to run it in my share gear though, so look forward to that.
Yes. I can't wait for this.
We've got plenty of organising to do. We're going to do it as a 3-legged race, so let's go. Imagine running a 3-legged race with Emily. You'd be ready to kill her by about like the end of 1K.
True.
Absolute nightmare of a human being, but I do love it. Exactly. Where's the blue line? Like, no, this is Glasgow, pal. There's no blue line.
By the way, that blue line is really difficult to see at night. Can I just say?
Aye, it's almost like you're not meant to run it in reverse at midnight with strangers.
Oh, but just think of the stories for my grandchildren one day,
Right. Do you know what? That's not a bad way to look at it. See if you zoom out of your running and look at the memories that you've stored up over the last few months. See all of the big wins and all of the disappointments, they all sort of melt away into just look at the big picture. What you've done is incredible.
Yeah, I think you have to though, because I think it's so easy to be hung up on like the smaller details, and I totally got hung up on those details. But when you look at things like a year down the line or several years, you go, it wasn't that bad. Like, and I got to do this. That was quite fun. Yes, my feet were sore, but I'll probably not remember that.
It's the people. It's the people and the experiences and the places. And like yesterday was transformed as a very local half marathon that I was running in by the people I met. Yesterday is what I will take away from that and remember. And I had a great run, but all of that will fade in time. But see the people that we met in the morning, that's the most relaxed I've ever been on a start line, because I was chatting right up until I nearly missed the start again, Alison.
It's your fault.
YouTube.
I was chatting away and I was like, oh no, I've got plenty of time, and then I needed the nervous pee that you need, and then there was a queue for the toilet, and I got out there and people were lined up and nearly running up to the start again.
Don't men just pee anywhere?
But I was so well. It's more frowned upon when you're standing in a school, especially when you're one of the link education managers for that school. So no, probably not.
Fair dues, fair dues.
But I when I got to the line, I had not a single bit of nerves about the race because I was just ready to go. And that's the people. That's just people. Made it completely social. A year and a half ago, I would have been standing myself. I would have been there early because I did that, got my number, and I sat in that car winding myself up, like internally, mentally, about maybe that pace is too fast, maybe this, maybe that. None of it yesterday. Just went out and went for it. It's such a game changer.
It's only you that you think it's only you until you actually meet other people and you go, like, how have I discovered like all these new friends for life?
Yeah,
because basically my family don't want to hear me talk about.
Exactly.
It's like, there's your medal. Like when I arrived home from Manchester, my husband went, "Did you run that?" I was like, "Oh yeah, did I not tell you?"
Oh, I meant to say it. But there, that was that person, that was Sharon, come over yesterday to talk to me and said, "Oh, I saw you in the car," and didn't come over to say hello. Like, you've been sitting in the car on the outside looking in. You could have been over there blethering with all these people that didn't actually know each other, by the way. So they were all in the same boat. Everybody was talking, like, just throw yourself in, folks. Take the chances. There are so many good people. There's some really, really boring people too, but that's mostly Emily. And you get to know them. No, I'll give you that. You're anything but boring, actually.
There she is in her tub in her back garden. What does her neighbours think?
More chaotic than anything else. But great day yesterday. Just before I move on to the final bit, and we'll wave Alison goodbye because she's going to get ready. I think she's been coronated along with Prince, whatever his face is, next week. She's now the Queen of London. I won a hat yesterday. Look, can you see?
Oh, nice. Oh, is that a big bobble hat?
A big bobble hat from the Big Bobble Company. Oh. So, want to say thanks to them and to the organisers yesterday, because they obviously run Lanarkshire and Dougie, who organises it, worked with the podcast to give away a couple of places. We helped promote that event. Met him yesterday. Absolute gem. He also ran London.
Did he?
He did.
Okay.
He did. So I've now put a face to the name, met him as well, and I'm hoping that we can help with that as well, because it's brilliant. And that company turned up and gave out prizes for spot prizes and whatnot. So brilliant day yesterday. Congratulations and thanks to everybody, the volunteers, for such a local thing. The support in the course was amazing from the runners and the volunteers. It felt like they were every few hundred yards, so you were never. You were never without an encouraging word. So it was brilliant, really great day had by all. So Alison, anything else you want to share with us about maybe being an ambassador of somewhere before you go?
Oh yes, so I'll share more on my Instagram. I just haven't had a chance this week because it's been pretty crazy. But I think people have seen me share stories before about the Healthy Body, Healthy Mind CBD oils and balms. So I've been asked to be an ambassador for that. So I'll be sharing some more information and a discount code on my page. It's funny because I actually know Brian, who owns that. Well, Emily, you met him as well when we were at the expo. You didn't get the chance to freak him out, but we were right beside stands when you met him. So me and Brian have known each other for far too long. We went to school together. Weren't runners then, but have become both marathon runners now. He's much faster than me. But he asked if I would be an ambassador. It's a product that I've actually used ever since they started the company up a good few years ago now. And it's brilliant for runners. So I'll send you the link, Ryan, but I'll be speaking about it more on my page and attach the discount code if anybody wants to purchase anything.
Perfect. What we'll do is when you get that code, I'll put it in the episode description for this episode as well. Put your code in and help you just pass that on when you've got it. Brilliant. So everybody knows then it's Alison for CBD and it's Emily for grade A drugs. So that's, just don't get them mixed up. Pool water as well, yeah, if that's your thing. Sorry. Oh, you're not meant to drink it? Is that what you're saying?
No, just have it on your mantelpiece.
Oh, lovely. Right next to the ashes, the family ashes. Perfect. Right, Alison, I'll let you go and then I'm going to do the quick fire round with this lunatic.
Well, it's been fun. I feel like this episode might need a don't try this at home. And
I'm not even editing this, I'm just putting it out.
No,
An
thanks,
hour and a
guys.
half of chaos. Thank you, Alison, for joining us.
Ryan, Emily, I'll be in touch because we can organise being the cheer squad for Ryan and others in a few weeks.
Absolutely. Can't
Right,
wait.
thank you.
We're still not actually talking about Edinburgh yet. That's next week.
Exciting. Right, thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye. Okay, so we've got Emily for the quickfire round now, and this is how we're going to close out. Emily, you know the drill. You've listened, but you've not done too much prep, which is perfect. So I'm going to rattle through some questions with you, and then I'm going to get your playlist track at the end. Good to go?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Favourite running shoe of all time?
Brooks Vapor.
Favourite training route?
The Kilpatrick Hills.
Best running related book or podcast you've read or listened to?
Oh, what's it called? It was about it's barefoot running. Oh, Born to Run.
Oh, I think we've had that one before. Who's that by? Do you remember?
No.
I'll find it. I'm sure we've linked to this one before. Proudest running moment?
This is a difficult one. Probably more marathon in 2018.
Worst race or running experience?
Worst race is it was a run in Livingston. It was like a club race, and I finished it and burst into tears.
I do that after most races. Ultimate post-marathon refuel meal and drink?
Probably like everybody, the pizza, and I don't really like beer, so pizza and a prosecco.
Pizza's the winner. So easy.
So many carbs.
It's just exactly, and you can just get the cheese in your
Just like
face.
right in your
and it's
face.
Like, exactly. Wear it. Just wear it. That's
Become
inhale
one
it.
with the pizza.
Yes, that's it. That's the one. I'm dreaming of it already. Best ever single piece of running advice you've been given or could give?
Just to give, if it's your first marathon, just enjoy it.
Absolute shite. Okay. What?
Be a tube.
What? Be a tube. Don't be normal. Be a tube.
Be a tube. Just enjoy life. You're a runner. Enjoy it.
One inspirational Instagram profile you never skip by?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. Probably, and I know you've had her before, but it's probably Kaylee, the happy diet. I just love her wee face.
It's a wee
just makes me
smiley.
so
A
happy.
wee smiley face.
Do you know?
Kaylee.
And she's so honest as well. Like
Yeah.
when she's feeling a bit up and down, but she just sees a lot of positivity, and I feel like, yeah, I need that.
It's amazing. She's so horrible in real life as well, but she does a great job on that social media.
Total cow.
Absolute
I know.
bitch.
We ran Manchester and she slapped me constantly. I couldn't.
Exactly. And the jail time she's done, don't even get me started on that.
Unreal.
Run with or without music?
Without listening to podcasts instead, though.
During a race?
No.
None.
No, nothing during a race, but in long runs, podcasts.
Yeah. Favourite park run?
Linwood.
Oh, that's a weird one. It's a good one, but it's so tight.
It's a lovely community one. Like, I know the event director and stuff, and they were so helpful when we were setting up a junior park run here. It's just lovely.
Finish this sentence. I press play and run because...
I press play and run because running just gives me my time.
That's good. That's quite profound.
Thank you. Well,
let's not waste it with a joke. Last order of business is always in the podcast is to get your running track playlist. So this can be something that wouldn't normally come out your running rotation. So it could be on a marathon playlist, or it might be just exercise, but a song that just hangs about there and doesn't really come off. What's it going to be and why?
I was going to pick something really random, just in honor of Kaylee.
Just to kill my soul.
Just to kill your soul. And I did mention it before when you did your little story things, but it has to be the Fratellis and Chelsea Dagger.
It's a good tune.
It's a brilliant tune. And I never tire of it, ever.
It's borderline old school by now, actually, but it's a good tune.
Well, it's a good tune, but it's like the Darts have taken it, anytime like my daughters hear it, they're like, oh, that's the Darts song. I'm like, no, it's not.
So, Emily, thank you so much for joining Alison and I today. I know she's had to do a runner because she's very important, very busy. But it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm sure we will have you on again because you are a firm fixture now in the Mad Squad.
Oh, definitely. I'm proud to be in the Mad Squad or the Crack Squad.
And I might put you back in that group chat that I've taken you out of that you don't know I've actually taken you out of. Be talking about you. So we'll maybe give you your clipboard back, see if you can up your game.
I can't wait. But thank you very much for having me on. I was so excited and so honoured to be asked.
No, I'm delighted to have you on. It's an amazing thing to have run that many marathons in that amount of time. You've taken in those experiences. You've done more in a month than most people will do in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So
it's probably something I'd never do again. Like it's
completely inadvisable.
I mean, completely, But I mean, I can still walk and run. So I mean,
yeah.
lasting damage is no more. So we're all good. But, you know, it's all memories and it's all things you can look back at and just go, remember I did that?
You did?
It was popular.
And nobody can take that back. By the way, one question I had, do you get a medal for doing the virtual London?
Yes, you do. So it
comes... The medal?
The medal. And the
good.
T-shirt as well.
Right.
So, but you usually get it about 2 weeks after. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing. It's like, I'll do my medal Monday, like weeks and weeks after to run it. But that's the one good thing.
I bet, do you know what? When everyone else is zigging, you're zagging. That's pretty much your life. So you're all good.
This is it. Just keeping the content real, Ryan.
Exactly. Medal Monday. Try medal 2 weeks and Wednesday. So Emily, thank you again for joining Alison and I in this episode. It's been brilliant to catch up with you, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you soon. Thank you to you, the listeners, for joining us for another episode of the Press Play and Run podcast. You can really help to support the podcast by subscribing or following on your podcast platform of choice and by leaving a review. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Press Play and Run Podcast and to add the Press Play and Run playlist on Spotify. We'll be back every 2 weeks with new episodes, and please be sure to keep an eye on our Instagram page to find out which guests will be joining us. Until then, keep getting the trainers on, press play and run.